Hey everyone, this is a LEGO Speed Champions 2-pack with a name that's ridiculously long, and you can see it over there. One piece of good news out the gate, or off the line if you will, is that even though this set has a lot of pieces for a Speed Champions set, even for a 2-pack, it doesn't waste any parts on side builds. You only build the 2 cars. The TA in Challenger TA stands for Trans Am or Trans America from the Trans Am Racing Series. That's Road Racing Series. So this was not designed or not released as a vehicle to go down to the drag strip or do your street racing and win, which makes it a little bit awkward that LEGO has positioned this as a drag racing 2-pack. You know, a classic street muscle car, and then a modern specialized drag racing vehicle against each other, both going down to the drag strip. But that's neither here nor there. It's just a little quirk, a little real world quirk. This was a road racing homologation special, so it was designed a little bit more for handling. You know, it's a little bit more lightweight, doesn't have the biggest engine of the series, and that's all good. I think that as a LEGO model, it's pretty successful. I think it looks great around the back. I mean, the tail itself used, as usual these days, some really, really interesting building techniques that were fun. They were very enjoyable. I think that it gets a little bit too squarish, a little bit too blocky all through here. All this right in here really throws me off because I really like the hips of the Challengers, old and new both. They're really defining features to me, and I feel like that wasn't quite captured here. I feel a little bit let down by that. I'm definitely biased in that. I want to see the curves through this whole section, and we only pretty much got them in one dimension. You know, you got this curve of the shoulder line up here, and that's about it. You also get the curvature down here, but that's again only on one dimension at a time, and that part is fine. The midsection I think is fine, and the nose I think is done pretty well, along with the hood. All that's pretty good stuff. If you ask me, once again, pretty cool building techniques. You know, as is usual these days for Speed Champions. LEGO Speed Champions designers are really, really good. And there are some really, really good angles here. I feel like this thing is very displayable. At first, when it was unveiled, I thought it was just a 6-wide. It did feel a little bit blocky to me, but of course, once you build it and you see it in person and you see it from the front or from the back, its proportions are significantly better than anything they ever did in the 6-wide world. And then you got the little exhausts underneath. They had to do that, did what they could with those, and I think they work perfectly fine. We're looking at this from a fairly low angle. From more natural angles, you don't see the connecting pieces and all. These are the newer Speed Champions wheels and tires. The tire is actually dual molded onto the wheel piece, so rubber on top of plastic. They roll fantastically well. And then these are printed inserts. And I think overall, the wheels and tires here work out pretty well, even though they're definitely lower in profile than they ought to be for a 60s to 70s muscle car. Still, I think, or any car for that matter, I think that they look respectable here. So overall, I feel like this is a success. I just wish that it was a little bit more curvy through here and back here. Top Fuel Dragsters are like the long Furbies of cars. You either get it or you really, really, really don't, and it looks super, super awkward. But LEGO has done some interesting things to capture this one. This is based off the look of a specific real car, which was driven by Leah Pruitt and actually had the primary sponsorship from the U.S. Army at the time. So, of course, LEGO's not going to pull that over. They did some pretty good graphic design work here, I think, to focus on the Dodge SRT sponsorship, and the honeycomb texture is based off it's basically extended from the B, which is from the 1320, for the focus there, 1320 Scat Pack, which was an option, specific option level for the Dodge Challenger, incidentally. So it all kind of connects together. All of these decorations, though, are stickers, with the exception of the canopy. And the canopy could have used a little bit more opacity for the yellow in particular. I think the white is okay. I think the white actually turned out all right. But the yellow, you can see, it's supposed to be the same yellow as the plastic pieces behind it. But all these other parts are just covered with large stickers, so much of the look of this is based on the application of stickers. If you leave the stickers off, it just ends up looking rather plain, but you can do that if you want. Just kind of would look murdered out, with the black on black. Change out the canopy. I would recommend, if you're going to do that, if you're going to leave the stickers off. Although the Mopar sticker right here is a nice one to add. The engine is built up pretty nicely. You've got some detailing there. The exhausts are a little bit on the thin side. Probably could have been a little bit thicker, but that's all good. I'm okay with that. Got the lines going back to the parachute packs back here. They didn't really show the parachute packs all that particularly well here, but it's okay. I think that the wing is done pretty well. You can actually adjust the wing a little bit. You can bring it forward or back to adjust your aerodynamic balance, but it's going to stay at one particular angle, which is perfectly fine. I got the ignition over on this side. I think overall this looks pretty cool. It has a pretty decent level of detail. Could have used a little bit more. Could have been a little bit more accurate, I think, within the confines of what Lego can do. And then the canopy opens forward like this, and it has this huge space for the tiny little minifigure to sit in there, and it just shows how crazy the proportions of this car are relative to a Lego minifigure. I mean, in real life, a person just barely fits within the frame. I mean, edge to edge, just barely fits within the frame rails, which are barely covered with the thinnest bit of skin, and then the feet come all the way up in here. Yeah, it's completely different. This is almost like double the size. Of course, Lego minifigures are not realistically proportioned whatsoever, and that's one of the things that makes proportions very difficult in Lego in general. And most of the time when folks, myself included, complain about proportions, what are we really basing that on? Are we basing it on real life, or are we basing it on minifigures? Like, this is not properly scaled to a minifigure, but a minifigure is not properly scaled to real life either. It's a little bit of a difficult thing to process and to compute. I think that overall, the size of this is pretty decent relative to the 8 wide Speed Champion. So if I do like this, line up the noses, and then I look right here, you see this lines up, just the tail of this lines up just to the front of the D. Now if I move, sorry about that, if I move the front right to there, the overall length is pretty good. It's pretty close. The top fuel dragster, the top fuel dragster in real life is about twice as long as the 1970 Challenger. So lengthwise, we're doing really, really well here. We're not doing well on at all. I've intentionally held off on this. It's tire size. The rear tire size is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. For that matter, the canopy size is also pretty ridiculous, but it had to hold a minifigure in there, which again is not based on the real proportions of an actual human being whatsoever. But these tires being as small as they are for this gigantic car, and its oversized depiction of an engine there, and its oversized depiction of a canopy there, just makes it look kind of ridiculous. Now, it does require a fair amount of modification if you want to put different tires on it for yourself, because the rear axles are secured with studs on the side construction. So it's actually using Technic bricks in there to hold the axle pins that these rotate on, and they are studs back. So this is studs. This is the top back here, and you're actually building from top to bottom inward, and then it changes directions. But definitely quite a bit of modification is required there, I think, because this is this is all kinds of weird. The Challenger, the street car, can, for a change, fit a minifigure inside who is not wearing a helmet. You can actually have a hairpiece on and have him driving the car. So that's nice. I would like to see that a little bit more frequently for just regular street cars. That is a unique torso. The t-shirt underneath that's supposed to be white is like a pale orange. Definitely should have been printed much better. Over on the right, the racing suit there looks much better. And that figure on the right does specifically represent a real-life individual, Leah Pruitt, who drives the Top Fuel Dragster, the Mopar SRT sponsored one, and has for some time, and has won a ridiculous number of races, one of the greatest racers on the planet right now on the quarter mile. And there's her hairpiece. But we do also get an optional helmet for the guy over here. So you have both options for both, and that's great. I always want to see that. Personally, always want to see two options when we do have helmeted figures. I'd like to be able to take those helmets off, especially if they're intended to be just normal folks. These are the leftover pieces, and the inclusion of one extra wheel insert is intentional here. The sticker sheet for the Challenger is not too extensive, felt okay, I'd say. But then the Top Fuel car is like I said, just basically all stickers. The set costs $50, 50 US, which feels okay for the number of parts and the size of the parts and everything. Basically, for the total amount of stuff that you get here, you know, the Challenger is a $20 Speed Champions car. That's just standard, you know, per their current pricing. For the 8 wides, after the 6 wides were $15 US, and so you're paying $30 for the long Furby car over here, which I think is okay. You know, I think that's acceptable for the amount of stuff. I just really wish this had been done significantly better. Really, it's a lot of it is the yellow printing, or the printing in general of the canopy. If they could have made it more obvious that the canopy, the proper see-through area, the proper windshield portion of the canopy that's printed here is just this small little strip here. If the rest of it could have looked like an extension of the body, this would look a lot more believable, I think, and would look a lot less awkward. But those tires back there are just completely wrong. This, on the other hand, is more than acceptable. There are definitely some things here that I think could have been done better, as I mentioned, and hopefully you could see, or maybe you disagree. But just there are some things that, some notes of the design of that Challenger that I really personally like that just aren't quite here. But overall, pretty well done. I wish that this had not been done as a 2-pack, to be honest with you. I understand that Lego figures out the prices for their sets in advance and everything, and then designs are made to fit those prices. But I think so many people would have liked to get a classic Challenger, you know, the early 70s version of a Challenger, or something like that, even as a basis to make other variations from. Whereas this is, I mean, there's only one of them. It's not even like it's a 2-pack where a 2-pack of comparable cars that could go against each other for, you know, for kids, for racing purposes, and then you don't have anything to do with it. So it's just on display and it looks weird. So as a 2-pack, I feel like this is not well done. As a 1-pack, this part here is more than good enough. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.